Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Edge. I am your host, Ted Gorski. The Leadership Edge is a show that focuses on leadership topics that are affecting you on a daily basis. On the show, we discuss these topics and we provide you tips and techniques that will kind of help you deal with those kind of challenges that you may be facing on a daily basis. And on our show every week, we have a certain theme and topic. And today's show is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. It's the whole concept of coaching. And as leaders, it's really important to be kind of focused on understanding what coaching is. But coaching is a fabulous tool that can help you really get the most out of people. So today's show, we're going to discuss this whole concept of what coaching is, and more importantly, how you can add it to your leadership on a day-to-day basis to really maximize your results. But before we get started, let's really talk about what is coaching. Let's discuss so we're all understanding exactly what it is. Coaching is that ability to support people, to garner skills, tools, and attitudes and behaviors to allow them to leverage their strengths, but more importantly, optimize their contributions. And the key phrases that I've underlined here: garner the skills. Coaching is a tool that's going to help you uplift people in regards to their skill set. It's helping them build those skills that's going to make them successful in what they're doing on a daily basis. It helps you develop tools, providing the people who you're working with tools to be successful in working with and dealing with the day-to-day stuff that they have to deal with. But more importantly too, develop the right attitudes and behaviors. Coaching is a fabulous approach, process, tool that's going to help you develop those right attitudes and behaviors in the people that you're leading so they can be successful. And if you utilize coaching successfully, it can really help you understand and really leverage how to maximize the performance of the people that you're leading. And the whole idea of coaching is it's a mindset. And the whole thing we're going to be talking about today is I really want you to get into that mindset to say to yourself, I'm looking to be the best coach I can be, the best leader I can be, and I'm going to leverage and use this thing called coaching. But you may be asking, okay, if I buy into this whole process and I buy into coaching, what are these benefits that can I get? What can I expect? But let's first talk about what coaching really is. Coaching is all about getting growth and change in the people that you are leading. It's about helping them really focusing on the coachee, coaching the person and really focusing on that person and what they need and what they want. Coaching is a supportive process. What you are doing is really helping the people you are leading to be successful. It is about providing the person with enough of skills, giving them enough of leeway to really develop. Coaching is all about building trust. And when you are building a coaching relationship with the people who you are leading, it's automatically going to build trust because you're going to have their best interest at heart. And after all, who doesn't want to work for a leader who really has the best interest of the people they're leading at heart? Coaching is all about listening. It's all about listening to what is being said, but more importantly, what's not being said. As a coach, one of the things I do when I'm working with the people I'm coaching is I'm not just listening to kind of how they're answering my questions, but it's all about also listening to how they answer them. Because coaching is an active contact sport, meaning that you're just not listening to the words, but you're watching how somebody is answering something from a body language perspective. And the goal here is to really watch that body language and say to yourself, what is the body language saying to me? Does it correlate to the words that are being said? But we'll talk more about this as we kind of go through the process. The last thing that's really important about coaching is it's all about provocative questioning. It's about asking really deep questions in regards to really getting to the essence of really what an issue is. You know, regarding questioning, it reflects on a recent coaching session I had with a leader. And this particular leader was having some challenges in regards to dealing with getting to another promotion, getting to the next level. And I remember asking her a question in our very first few coaching sessions. And I asked a particular question, and all of a sudden on the phone I can hear her pause, and then all of a sudden she started to get really emotional and started breaking down. And when she started to kind of break down and get emotional, that was really telling me something, that was a particular issue that was really something we needed to kind of drill down to. But however, by asking that question, it unearthed that emotion, which meant to me that there was something there that we needed to explore. So as a coach, it's important to understand that your questioning is really what's going to build kind of the response in the person, because the goal of the coach is to ask questions to get the person to divulge some important information, and it really divulge what the real issues are behind things. So what's the benefits of coaching? Why should we start into dealing with coaching? Well, there's three kind of levels here. First of all, from an organizational perspective, it's all about retaining talent. And in today's competitive world, it's important that we retain our top talent. Our top talent, if they leave us, can go into other organizations. So coaching really helps us kind of retain that talent, because coaching helps us stretch those people and develop them even more. From a team perspective, it's all about productivity. The benefits of coaching is how they can work better as a team. And as a leader, we're always looking for ways to make our team kind of work better together and kind of work in a more cohesive way. And coaching is a fabulous way that can help you do that. And as an individual, it's all about increasing performance. That it's about us getting the most out of each of the people that we lead. But here's some more proof on why and what coaching brings to the table. There was a recent study done in which this researcher went off and tried to look at what are the benefits of coaching. What is it that coaching brings to the table? And from all the various companies that kind of participated in the survey, 53% reported higher productivity. So this really shows that coaching as a tool can help you develop a more productive organization. It helps build better customer service. That by using coaching, it helps organizations build better people who are taking care of their customers. But what's really more important here is the last bullet, bottom line productivity. 22% of the companies said that their productivity increased. So you can see what happens here in regards to the organization in terms of the benefits of the company and what coaching can have. But what about benefits to the individual? Well, in that same survey, 71% said they had a better working relationship with their boss, and coaching was the vehicle that made that happen. 67% said their teamwork was a whole lot better. 52% said it helped them with conflict reduction of people that they were dealing with. So you can see that coaching is a fabulous tool that can not only helps the organization in many ways, but it also helps you with the people that you're leading to kind of create the goals that you're expecting to achieve. So coaching is a fabulous tool and a fabulous technique that you can use and leverage because it has many benefits. But now let's kind of really talk about kind of the mindsets involved here. The mindsets that are involved with the person who's the coach as well as the coachee, because each person has to kind of bring some things to the table. And first, the coach mindset. This is you. If you're going to adapt this whole thing about being a coach and you're going to bring this to the organization, you're saying, gosh darn it, I want to be a better coach. Here are some things that you really have to kind of keep your mind on in the mindset you're bringing to the table. First of all, you cannot bring a hidden agenda, meaning that when you're coming to coach somebody, your only agenda is to make that person better in what they're doing, to make them more productive, to make them maybe deal with an issue. That is the only agenda, is helping that person. You can't be bringing any of your agendas to the table when you're coaching. Being present means that when you're in this coaching session and you're working with someone, you're not typing on your PC, you're not picking up the phone, you're not looking at your iPhone or your cell phone in any way. You're fully present with the person, because as I mentioned earlier, you got to pick up those subtle messages when you're coaching somebody. Coaching's all about trust. They have to feel that they trust you when you're in this coaching relationship, meaning that if they divulge something to you, it stays with you. I won't tell you how many times I've coached people that as they felt more trust with me, they would start to open up. And it's amazing what magic happens when people begin to open up and tell you the real truth behind things, about how they're feeling and how they're approaching something. Just the fact, as I mentioned earlier, that leader that felt comfortable enough to get emotional and cry in our sessions. That showed to me that that person really trusted the relationship. The coach mindset is being objective. Objective means you're seeing all parts of the issue. You're not coming to a situation and sizing it up from a subjective point of view. And finally, you have to follow the 80-20 rule, meaning that when you're in a coaching kind of mindset, if you're coaching somebody, let's say in a 30-minute session, relatively 24 minutes of that is the coachee kind of stating what their issues are, meaning they're doing the bulk of the talking. What you are doing as a coach is asking some provocative questions, maybe some follow-up, but really listening to what they're saying so you can tie in, making sure that they're all in alignment when they're kind of talking and divulging information. So you're not constantly talking, you're listening and kind of getting involved in really making sure that the person has someone who can kind of help them navigate them through issues. But what about the coachee? What do they have to bring to the table? A couple of things. They have to be open and flexible. They have to feel trust enough to be open and tell you exactly how they're feeling. We've talked about the concept of trust. Coaching only works when there is a trust relationship there, that they feel that they can feel comfortable enough to share anything with you. And lastly, what's really important here is coachable, meaning will the person be open to hearing suggestions? Will they be open to maybe as you're sharing some ideas, are they going to be open to kind of try them? Because coachable means they have to be open, have to be moldable to be able to deal with the stuff that they're dealing with. So that's kind of the whole kind of mindset when we're kind of talking about the coach and the coachee. So with that as a backdrop, let us now kind of shift gears and talk about the actual coaching process. Let's say all this stuff is taken care of. You say, okay, I get the mindset. I understand how this relationship works. I want to kind of figure out this whole process. Let's talk about the 5-step model that kind of displays what coaching really is. And it's important to understand each step as you're navigating someone through the process. So the first issue, the first kind of step is focusing the issue. Meaning, when you're coaching somebody, you have to understand what the desired outcome is. You have to first identify what is the issue. What is the issue that the person's wrestling with? And also finding out what is their desired outcome. Let's say that there's a conflict, a communication issue between two, let's say, employees. Well, the issue could be that there's a conflict that they're having with another employee. And a desired outcome might be, I want to improve this communication. Today it might be a 2 on a scale of 10. I want it to be an 8. And here's the desired outcome I want to get to. So for you, it's understanding where are we today, what is the issue, and where do we want to achieve and get to. So it's important to understand those and focusing on the right issue. Because focusing on the wrong issue is going to bring you down a path that you may not want to get down to. Or you may go down a path which doesn't really deal with the issue. So you as the coach leader, you have to come to it with a clear mind and be present. Because when someone's bringing an issue to you, when they're asking you for your help, you really have to be there to clearly understand what they're wrestling with, and really understand what they're trying to achieve as the final outcome. So that's step one. It's focusing on the issues. Step two now is once you kind of focus on the issue and you understand what you want the outcome to be, we're now getting into, okay, how can we get there? If we have a communication issue on a level 2 today, which means that there's some challenges with the communication, what do we need to do to get to a level 8? And it could be, that's the gap. The 2 to 8, that 6 point is the gap. And we need to figure out how can we deal and close that gap. So at this point, we're brainstorming. How can we solve this problem? How can we get started? What are some actions we can take? So here you're just brainstorming with the person you're coaching, coming up with ideas on how you can solve this problem. So this is the fun part. This is where you're having the person that you're working with, the coachee, they're the ones that are coming up with the possibilities, with the actions, with the solutions. And all you're doing here is accumulating them all. You're not trying to break them down. You're not trying to discount any. All you're trying to do is get as many particular options, as many particular actions on the table. So the goal here is accumulation. We're not going to judge them. We're not going to assess them. So that's the next step, is really just gathering all that information. So once you gather some ideas, maybe it's 2, 3, 4, 5 ideas, and you'll kind of know, because when the person you're kind of coaching loses a little momentum, where they start thinking like, I don't know, I can't think of anything else, so the ideas come out a little bit slower and slower, it kind of gets you an idea that they've kind of exhausted kind of their brainstorming on how they can solve it. So let's say you have 3 to 4 potential solutions to help them. We now jump to the next step, which now we create an action plan. And part of this action plan is, as we're kind of looking at, we're looking at each of the particular areas. And we're saying to ourselves, okay, which of these, let's say 3 options that they've come up with, which one of these do they think that they can create some type of action plan on? So you've gotten 3, and now at this stage what we are doing is we are now starting to assess them. Which one do they feel comfortable in executing? Which ones do they think they can easily kind of execute on? So you're having them assess each of the options, and then figure out, okay, which one am I going to choose? So now in action step 3, we are now starting to look at what are the steps for that plan or for that action to happen. So now we're creating the steps and what they need to do. So to get to our example of the miscommunication and there's conflict, well, the person you're coaching might say, well, I want to get to know the person better. Maybe that's part of the problem. And part of the solution might be I may want to execute going out to lunch with them once a week. That could be a potential action. And you might say, fantastic, let's start to execute on that. And what else could you do? So what you're doing is you're creating the action. Then we want to create some dates, because the important part in the action plan is creating dates. We need specific, accountable dates that you can keep the person accountable. Otherwise, it's just a dream. So make sure that you kind of do that. Now, what's interesting in this step 2, I have this second bullet called chunk sizing. Sometimes what happens is when someone thinks of a big plan, they get overwhelmed. And part of our job as a coach in this stage, when we chunk size, means we start chopping down the plan into small, manageable tasks. So just realize if you're working with someone and they're kind of starting to feel overwhelmed, that maybe they're looking at the bigger plan and they're getting overwhelmed. As a coach, what we want to do is bring it down into manageable chunks so they can understand what they need to do to kind of process through that. So that's step 3. Now you create an action plan. Then, as they have that action plan, we now skip over to step 4, which is we ask for commitment. What it simply is, as I ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1, there is no commitment, and 10, you're super committed to the plan that you just developed, where are you on that scale? If they say they're a level 10, fantastic, congratulations, we'll move on to the next and final step. But if you get anything less than a 10, what this means is that there's still a barrier that's stopping this person from reaching their desired outcome. So for example, if I ask them, okay, you want to improve communications with this person, here's your action steps that you devised. On a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of commitment, where are you? If that person tells me an 8, what that says to me is there's still some doubt, there's still a barrier there that I have to coach them through, which means I might have to step back to our step 1 again to identify what that issue is and bring them back through the model. So what you can see here is this model is extremely dynamic. You could be bouncing to various steps in one coaching session. But in this step, you cannot leave step 4 unless you have a level 10 commitment. Otherwise, there's still a barrier that's present, because what you want is commitment, not buy-in. When someone's truly committed, they're going to actually do what they plan to do in the action plan. If they're in the buy-in stage, basically what it means is that they're not fully committed, in that it's probably someone else who created the action and they're just going along with the ride, which means they probably won't get things done. So this is a very simple step, and this is something that's real important. But let's say you get a level 10. Well, the last step here is we just kind of review the conversation. We review the discussion. So I might say, okay, so Joe, you kind of said you're having challenges with this as employee. You said your goal is that today you're an 8-2, you want to get to an 8. You said you created this action plan where you want to go to lunch with them, and maybe there's some other tasks. You're going to start that lunch kind of meeting by this Friday. You kind of go in that and then basically say, is that the agreement, or does that kind of sound like the full agreement that we spoke on? That's all you're doing, is reaffirming. Because during this process, you're constantly bouncing back and forth, and sometimes there's some miscommunication or misunderstanding. But let's say the person goes, yep, that totally get it. That makes sense. Yes, everything you said, I'm all committed to do. Fantastic. The very last thing you want to do as the person who's the coach is ask them, would it be okay if I checked in with you to see how your progress is going? You see, this is a very vital piece of the step, because what you're doing is you're asking for permission to check in to make sure they're moving towards some type of progress to the issue. The big mistake that a lot of young leaders who are starting this whole coaching process is forget this check-in. And as a result, they kind of leave the issue hanging in the air. Do not do that. The check-in is a simple walk-by. It's a simple, how's it going? Did you have that lunch? What did you learn? It's a simple stop-by, quick check-in. Now, what's interesting with that is if you walk by and you check in, and the person said, oh, I had this, supposed to have this meeting on Friday, but I had to cancel. Well, now that becomes another coachable moment for you. Now you can kind of say, okay, what kind of happened here? Because maybe the person got cold feet. Maybe the person has another barrier, and you can kind of coach them through it. So just realize that is the kind of the 5-step process. So to kind of reiterate the process, step 1 is focusing on the issue. What is the issue that you want to coach the person on? Second, identify the possibilities. Look at, brainstorm how the person can solve the problem. And remember, the brainstorming comes from the person who's being coached. They're creating the plans, not you as the coach. Because if you're telling them and giving them the plan, you're not coaching, you're consulting. So just remember, the options in the plan comes from the coachee. Step 3, we take one of the possibilities that were identified, and the coachee selects one of them and creates the plan, creates the steps to make that plan a reality. Step 4, you're acquiring the commitment from the person. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Anything less than a 10, you're bouncing back to step 1 to find out what the real issue is. If it's a 10, you go down to the last step where you clarify, where you just kind of explain again everything you just did, what the plan is, what their commitment is, and lastly, you do a check-in. That's kind of the 4-step model. But a couple of things I want to leave you with in terms of coaching tips, because you may be working through this and you're trying to wrestle with this and work and want to be the best coach you can be. Here's a couple of things I would say. Number one, ask open-ended questions. Great ones are start with what, why, how. I like tell me more. Those are great to get the person to talk more. So use open-ended questions. Sometimes when you ask a question, someone might say, I don't know. Here's a technique that I've used that seems to work. Well, if you did know, what would you do? Or if you did know, what approach would you take? If you did know you could be truly successful, what options would you choose? Ask for permission. If you have a story that might tie in, say, can I share something? Because it helps in that conversation. Because stories really help people learn. So don't be afraid to tell a story during that whole coaching process. And lastly, drop the clock. Coaching is not a 5-minute thing. Don't look at your clock and say, I got 5 minutes to go. I have 5 minutes to coach you. Coaching may take longer than 5 minutes. If you do it by a clock, people are going to feel pressured, and you're going to feel pressured in kind of doing the coaching. Don't do a clock. Make sure that you have the time to coach people properly. So there it is, the coaching model and kind of how it works. I challenge you this week to try it. The only way you get better as a coach is to kind of try this whole process. Ask the questions. Get comfortable in asking those open-ended questions. Because I really think by using this, as you can see from the show today, there's a lot of benefits for you to be a better coach and to be a great coach leader. So in wrapping up today is if there's anything we can do to help you with your leadership needs, please reach out to us at www.getYourEdge.com, and we'd be more than happy to kind of help you with anything you may have regarding your leadership needs. So again, my name is Ted Gorski. This is the Leadership Edge show. Thanks for tuning in this week, and see you next time on the Leadership Edge.